Hi, this afternoon we are here to celebrate the designation of East Dorset Village as a historic district. I'm welcoming you and I want you to join in the walk as we explore some of the hidden clues that talk about what this village was like 150 years ago. I welcome you. I'm Ruth Stewart. I am the volunteer at the Dorset Historical Society, and I have been collecting data on East Dorset for quite a long while. About 5 or 6 years ago, Michelle Bagon, who is standing here in the middle, she approached me and she says, "You know what, this is such a beautiful village. I think we should work to nominate it as a East Dorset Village Historic District." And so we began, and it was approved in July 18th, 2024. Hip hip hooray. Yeah. And the new sign is at the entrance on Mad Tom Road, nicely done by Wooden Signs Rich Farley. So take a look at it on your way out. So I passed out a few pictures gave an overview of what East Dorset looked like around 1850, 59, 69. The start of our project was the Beers Atlas, the 1869 Beers Atlas. And on some of the maps that you have there, there's a drawing of the streets that were there. So imagine yourself standing here, 1869, the railroad came through in 1852. And so I'm just going to kind of highlight what was here in 1852, including this hotel, which was built by Ira Cochran, who lived 3 houses down to the south here, and we'll go by his house. So he was a member of the board of directors of the railroad company, and he knew the railroad was coming through. So he built a hotel. And this has been a hotel since 1853, when it opened. The railroad, there was a railroad station to the my right, to the north here, which was, there were a couple of renditions of it. One was about where the road crosses, but the biggest one was where the cars are parked over there. Also here was the entire landscape to your west was marble quarries. So if you look to the right and you look to the left, that whole, and this was the main road, there was no Route 7 over there, this whole area were all marble mills, not quarries, taking marble off of the Dorset Peak and bringing it down here to be milled. So it was a pretty noisy environment, and the whole community of East Dorset grew around the marble industry and around the amenities that were here were supporting the workers and providing goods and services for the industry. So across the road, you will see a flat roof building, which in all the pictures that you look at is sort of a landmark for this village. It was built as a store. It had operated by the Griffiths family up until 1908, when it burned. And it was rebuilt that exact same year, using almost the plans that duplicated this original building. There are a few items about this build that help us identify some of the photos that you have in your hand. When it was before 1908, on the back side there were only 2 windows in the back upstairs. And after 1908 in the rebuild, there were 3 windows. And the dentals along the top were added, and it's had various manifestations over the years. There was a double porch that was in the middle, etc. It is now privately owned. A kitty corner to the north is the Congregational Church, the East Dorset Congregational Church. That was built in 1838. And again, before the railroad was here. The Catholic Church had started up on the Dorset Hill Road, where the quarry operations were, and they were originally held in private homes, and eventually moved to the village area here. There was a cheese factory where the town firehouse is, and that is where the Catholic Church had their home until they went up Mad Tom Road and built the church, the Catholic Church, which is no longer standing. In addition to the church, there was another store called the Ames Brophy store, and it was behind the church and between the church and the house. It burned in 1926. There was a woman that I interviewed a few years ago who lived in the house directly across from that, and she remembers standing in the front living room of the house, dressed all in her winter clothes, watching the fire, not knowing whether the family would have to evacuate or not. They did not. When that store burned, the owner bought the Griffiths store, and it continued as a store until in the 1950s, when the main road went through, and this was no longer a main drag. I have the pictures that I've given you. I just sort of gave to you as a frame of reference. I would like them back, and you can just throw them in my basket there. I also have handouts that give you the East Dorset history, a chronology of East Dorset history, which is in my basket, and another handout that lists all the resources that Michelle and I used to collect to gather the information for this designation. It was a 5-year project, and we had to do research on every single one of the properties once we established the boundaries. And the boundaries of the district are pretty much to the end of Village Street here, to that end of Village Street, and then up Mad Tom Road, just a bit around the corner. And that bought it in the 60s, did extensive research and renovation of the inside of this house. The back part dates back to the 1770s. It's a very tiny little room with a fireplace, which all remains intact. And the front part is Greek Revival. Michelle, you need to help me here. And we're going to talk a little, I'll have Michelle talk a little bit about the architecture of this house. So it's Greek Revival with okay, so you probably will notice automatically how similar this house is to the hotel we were just talking about, right? How similar this is to the hotel. If you go back, when we go back around the corner, look at it again, and you'll see that it's basically this same eaves front. There are two styles of Greek Revival, all right? There's the eaves front, which is what this is, and the gable front Greek Revival is the one with the pointy front to it, yeah? So this is eaves front Greek Revival. If you'll notice, the windows are all 6/6 double hung sashes. That's from the period. The door has the glass transom. Can you see above the front door? Mm-hmm. There's a glass transom there. Very often there are side lights also on either side. Maybe this house had it and has been deleted over the years. One thing that we learned doing the research about this architecture is that the earliest parts of all of these houses have a back wing.
So will we be able to walk around the side a little bit, maybe, Ruth? You'll see there's a back wing, and that's the old Cape Cod section of the house. And that's where there's the very, very early fireplace with the iron swing, you know, for swinging your pots in over the fire. That's in the back part of the house. So that's from, I think the card at the town says, yeah, 1770, is that what we have? So we know the back wing of the house is your Cape Cod style from about 1770. And then it became fashionable. As the 19th century turned, it became fashionable to have your front door facing the road out front. Up until then, in the late 18th century, you took your horse and buggy in the side and you went in the side door, and that was your front door, basically, was the side. Then, like I say, it became fashionable to have your door face the front, face the road out front. And so I'm of the opinion that today that's the reason why nobody uses their front door. Because everybody was so used to using the side door that they kept doing that forever. So that's the story for this house in a nutshell.
I'm going to just read the information sheet that is here, which is pretty much a synopsis. It said, this side gable Greek revival house with a wraparound porch projects a prominent image in the village. The house has two sections. Reportedly, the south side entrance door was enlarged to move caskets in and out during Dr. John Cochrane's occupancy. He was Ira Cochrane's grandson. The house is historically associated with Ira Cochrane, which we have come to consider the founder of East Dorset Village. All the deeds for property from Village Street to Pleasant Street trace ownership back to Ira Cochrane. As the director of the Rutland-Bennington Railroad line, he knew the railroad was coming, so he built a hotel and supplied the ties for the track from his lumber operation. He owned quarries on Mount Oldest, which is that mountain behind us, aka Dorset Peak, and operated a steam-powered marble mill. The raceway that fed the marble mills is on the other side of the post office. As you walk up there, you can see marble framing of that raceway that came all the way from up that direction down through here, running the mills. This building provided a model for architectural styles in the village, and it ties to Ira Cochrane in many ways as a major developer of the village. So as we go through the village area, you'll see that there's a similarity to the architecture on most of these houses. Here we are at the East Dorset Congregational Church. It was incorporated in 1838 and built as a church. I think it was the United, can't exactly remember the name of the church society, but it's been a congregational church ever since. It hasn't been changed too much in its 100 and almost 200 years of history. Here we are. The Articles of Faith were adopted for the Congregational Church in 1867. The meeting house ownership passed from the East Dorset Union Society, that was the name of the overall church organization, to the Congregational Church. It's always been open to Protestant faith. In 1998, they got a grant from the Preservation Trust of Vermont to restore the steeples and handrails and chimney foundation. Unfortunately, today its congregation is very, very small, and they are at a crossroads of what the future of this church will be. Let's walk east. As I mentioned, the store, the Ames Brophy store, was right here where this wonderful burning bush is. There are remnants of the foundation still visible. So to my right is the This house was a duplex. Let's just keep walking. We believe it was built by Ira Cochran to house the workers in his hotel or marble quarries, etc. And this is the house I spoke about where the lady I interviewed recalls standing there watching the church or burn. On the early pictures that I showed you, you will see that this was a duplex. It had been a single-family house for quite some time, but has been changed into a duplex again with Airbnb on the west end and a new entrance there. Where the Dorset town offices are, stood the Dorset School, East Dorset School, East Dorset Village School, to be exact. There is a picture on the signpost there. The school was one of 4 in Dorset that was built as a consolidated school to bring all, there were, I think, 12 different schools in the town, and this District 6 brought the students from North Dorset. There was another school on Mad Tom Road. There was a school in South Village in East Dorset. All of those kids came here. I'm not sure what the date was on that off the top of my head, but anyway, it had 2 classrooms in the bottom and a open floor with a stage on the top, which was used for community events. And there's quite a bit of information at the Dorset Historical Society that talks about some of the events that were up there, plays and Memorial Day events, etc. It was when the Morse Hill Road Elementary School was built in 1963, all the students throughout the town went to that school, and the regional schools, the consolidated schools, were closed, abandoned, torn down. So this one was torn down. The one in South Dorset, not far from the quarry, that still remains, and it has been a retail or a business operation or private ownership for several years. And the other one was where the Dorset Village Post Office is, and that also was torn down in the 60s, late 60s. We are now also in front of the Kent House. There's a stoop on the front, which helps us remember that this is the Kent House. That was where you could pull up your horse and dismount. So I'm just going to read the information that's on the sign here because it's pretty succinct. This house is shown on the 1869 Beers Atlas map of Dorset, although no owner is identified. Judging from the name carved on the marble dismounting stone in front of the house, it was certainly owned by a Kent and probably built by Dwayne L. Kent. It is typical of the houses on the street, with the gable end facing front and an L with a different roof line to the side. The bay window in front was a common feature. The architectural details inside reflect the wealth of the first owner. Dwayne L. Kent, the owner, was a partner in the Holly and Kent Marble Company, which went bankrupt in 1857. Years later, kudos.
Okay, so this is the other style of Greek revival that I was mentioning when we were looking at Mr. Cochran's house. That was the eaves front style Greek revival. This is the gable front. You see the pointed roof right there? That's the gable. So this is the gable front Greek revival. There's the door that I was talking about with the two side lights on either side of the door. And this probably, we're guessing that the porch here we know is relatively new. There's an old picture of the porch that has more Italian style bracketing so that it looks very much more like this porch right across the way.
You want to start? I'll start. This house was owned by several different quarry owners. The first one was Hiram Field. Another one was, Frederick Field. Another one was Hiram Holly. And the last one was Freedley. And I think most of you are familiar with Freedley Quarry, which is on the hillside up here. They were all quarry owners, but some of them were also mill owners. And the house reflects a certain wealth and status in the community.
Okay, so this is another example then of the gable front Greek revival. You can see the house now the doorway of this house has both the light over the doorway and down both sides of the doorway. It's entirely possible that the beautiful porch there and the brackets up under the roof could have been a later addition. That would be like an Italianate detail that would have been added onto, a more simple gable front Greek revival style. It's entirely possible that maybe the back wing of this house could have been earlier also. We don't know that. Again, people have been asking me, who built these houses and all that. We just don't have building permits, to tell us exactly when or who the builders were or anything like that.
Would you like to speak?
Would the owner like to speak?
You have to come over here and use the microphone. I think she's going to say something about this wraparound porch.
Yeah, well, the wing, there are wings, but where you can see the bay window on the right, that's an addition, and that was built, we had it taken down to the studs a few years ago, and Danny Bowen rebuilt it, and it had dates in it that were 1872.
Super.
So that was a little later than the initial house.
Yeah.
Yes, and the porch went further this side, and I think you said it in your words over there. On the other side, it's been incorporated into a bathroom.
Yes, as Nancy mentioned, this had a full wraparound porch. And on the overview photos that I showed you, you can see this house in those, but you can't clearly see whether there was a porch on it, but you can see that it's a very large, high building in the neighborhood. The other really kind of fun story, if you're in the position where I'm looking, if you're looking straight back there, there's a little mound, and the story is?
We call it the mound. My father-in-law bought the house in 1933, and the rumor is, the story is that he wanted a little hill for his young children to sled on. This was Mr. Freedley, and so he had marble chips dumped there and earth, and my husband doesn't buy the story, but that's the story we've been told.
Kind of unique in architecture and quite different than most of the other houses with the Greek Revival style. Yes, if anybody would like to contribute to the Marble Sidewalk Fund, let me know.
That structure and where that window is on that first floor was another little building that somebody moved there and attached to the side of the house, and it became the kitchen. And then we needed more bedroom space, so we put that addition on the back side there and raised it up a full 2 stories and added on to the back, and it gave us a new 2 bathrooms, a family room and a master, or whatever you call it, primary bedroom.
That's right.
When we were doing our assessment of the architecture of the village as for our project, we only looked at the outside of the houses, and we had to describe what we saw. And in many cases, most cases, any changes that have been added onto or incorporated or whatever have been done within emulating the original style of the house. Michelle, you want to speak to this?
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, so the whole project started with the earliest house, which was Mr. Cochrane's at 1770, and this is the latest or most modern house in the whole project that we did. This was built somewhere between 1910 and 20, I think we decided, and it's the American Four-Square. It's called the American Four-Square style, and it has the apex hipped roof right there, which you don't see. This building has one, and 2 doors up, the rectory has this same hipped roof style. The original floor plan, I think, has four rooms in a square down and 4 rooms in a square up. But as Jim was just describing, they've done a lot of changes to it, obviously, to expand it inside. Yeah, inside and the addition they've added on. But yeah, so this is the only American Four-Square you will see here in the village.
History for me. The person who grew up here, name was Ruth Stone Fowler. She was the one that was meticulous about keeping family photos and scrapbooks, and donated lots of stuff to the Dorset Historical Society. Jumping off from all of those and her memories got me started and interested in East Dorset history. When she lived in this house, there was I think for a long time there was an apartment upstairs that was accessed through the back. My understanding is that the right side where the garage is and everything, that's all been added on to fairly new. But it also represents a architectural feature with the bow window that was represented a little more of the wealth. Her father was an insurance agent, and her mother was of the Brophy family, whose history is all up and down this street. That's another thing about our research here. We discovered that families were related to families, were related to families, were related to families. Daughters married the guy across the street or down the road. So a lot of these houses had remained in the same family. When I first started doing this, I discovered that the transfer of these houses out of the family didn't start until around the 50s and 60s. And today, there are at least 3 houses on the block whose family ownership goes back to the 20s. So that's pretty exciting. Anyway, the woman who lived here, Ruth Stone Fowler, she died 3 days ago. But it was wonderful because she was 99 years old. She gave me a wonderful appreciation of her childhood, her life here in East Dorset, and provided the Historical Society with phenomenal historical records. Her grandfather is the one that ran the store, returning from the World War I. Is that right, Michelle? Yeah, and
Harvey Brophy was speaking up.
Harvey Brophy, his name was.
Sorry, he was Civil War.
Civil War. Sorry. All right. Michelle did the article on him. And subsequently worked for Mr. Ames, who owned the store and then bought the store. And I guess I did mention that when his store burned in '26, he bought the Griffith store across the way. The Brophy family is still very much in this area. Yep.
Okay, so here's another example of the gable front Greek revival, but just try to remove the bump out, right, off the front of the building here, remove the porch over the front door, remove the side porch, or especially the brackets there, right, that's a later addition Italianate, and you've got the basic style that you saw, the yellow house down the road has it, and houses around the corner. This is the standard Greek revival with a wing. And again, Italianate details have been added, like the bracketing on the side porch here. That whole bump out is a sort of octagonal kind of shape, it's not square, it's an octagonal, and then of course the little portico over the front door. And yes, we do have an old photo, Ruth, that shows without the addition here on the right, straight back there was an old barn.
So we also did the houses behind us on Pleasant Street. There are the first 4 houses, 2 on the left and 2 on the right, were all came out of the Cochran land ownership. The 2 on the left have been very beautifully renovated, retaining all of the original architecture. And the same goes for the 2 on the right. We have information on all of them if anybody's interested, but we're not going to walk down there in the interest of time. But we're going up here to the parsonage. It was built by a farmer and then bought by the Catholic Diocese of Burlington as to be a rectory. And it originally had a flat roof and cupola on the top, and there's a picture of that on the signboard there. And the cupola was removed and the hip roof replaced it. We are told that the flat roof is still intact inside that house. And the cupola too? I don't know about that. If you look at the picture, yeah, I don't think it's quite high enough for that. But it's interesting that it had the cupola.
This was built by a farmer in the North Dorset area, who then built it, and almost immediately, I believe the man passed away, and so his estate sold it. And the Catholic Diocese of Burlington bought it because they needed a rectory for the priests to have a place. So even before they built the church, well, they had the church down, as you say, the cheese factory building down on Village Street where we were, was where the original Catholic ceremonies masses were held. So then they needed a place for the priests to live, and so they bought this as a brand new property. And then almost immediately, we find an advertisement in the Manchester Journal saying that they need to sell the property because they need to build the church. So apparently they thought maybe they could make a little money. Maybe they got it at a very good price. We don't know. And then resold it. So, but then, no, they decided, no. Somehow somebody came to their rescue and must have given them the money to build the church down Leary Lane here. If you're interested in going, take this left turn down Leary Lane, and the marble foundations of the old St. Jerome's Church are still there. So they bought this almost brand new house, advertised it almost immediately for sale because the ad says they need the funds to be able to build the church. And then lo and behold, they ended up keeping it all these years. And so from about 1870 to about 1990, Chris lived here, right, for many years. The Catholic Diocese of Burlington owned this for more than 100 years and then sold it. And then ultimately, unfortunately, the church itself was taken down just about 5 years ago, I want to say, 5 or 6 years ago. But there is a cemetery, there's a Catholic cemetery down Leary Lane here, which is still operational. People are still being buried there, so the diocese still very much owns the cemetery.
Residents in the country, not county. Apparently, it was not sold but the church was still built in 1874. The Catholic Diocese sold the house in 1998, and it didn't change hands again until 2020. And then, as Michelle said, note the cornice brackets under the overhanging eaves. Originally, the house had a flat roof with a cupola on top. It was removed circa 1900, and a hip roof added. And then there's another information here about the St. Jerome's Church. It doesn't say on this information sheet when it was torn. Oh, yes, it was dismantled in 2016. And very nicely done. It was a company that repurposed as much as they could in that church, which was great to see. It had the most beautiful chestnut pews that I have ever seen. And of course, chestnut's not very available nowadays. So that's the church there. Okay, and if you go down here, Larry Lane, that's where the church was built. And as Michelle said, this cemetery is that way, and it's still being used. So our historic district actually goes just beyond the turn in the road, and we're not going to go up, but these houses pretty much remained in the same families. And there's a lot of interesting stories. The one kitty corner to us, 186, was a home for sort of like a nursing home in the 50s. The other thing that I might mention is to where that telephone pole is there in front of the house with the stone foundation. There's a brook that runs next to that, which has flooded in the last couple of times. And if you walk up that brook, there's a foundation, which we believe was a mill operating there. And we have information of specific information about that was printed in the paper that says something about like Nancy Green had the house and she had a cider mill in the bottom and something or other in the top, and the pollution was going down the river and wasn't very welcomed by the people who lived below her, etc., etc. And that's all in the information that we did on that. And it is private property. I believe the owner is here. And there is a path. There was a path. Yeah, that kind of goes along there, but it's kind of interesting. So that's what sort of started my quest on this. So I think that we're gonna stop here. If you have any questions about any